Greetings, Love Posse. Today's message. Whether you are gay or straight, there's a reason why you might be dating or married to someone who resembles one of your parents. Why? Because as children, we go through and experience childhood trauma, hurts, pains, disappointments that don't get resolved, may not get resolved. And so we bring those traumas and wounds and hurts with us into our adult life. And we get this wonderful opportunity to be in relationship with another human being. And that relationship may afford us an opportunity to move towards wholeness, to heal those hurts and wounds and trauma with this other person. So unconsciously, we may attract someone who resembles one of our parents. Why? We want to heal. We want to heal that discord, that hurt, that pain, that wound that we have with one of our parents. It's usually the parent, from my experience, the parent we're most seeking love from. The parent we want to see us and hear us, the parent who wasn't there, the parent who left, the parent who wasn't available, the parent we're trying to prove that we are enough. Love me, I'm worthy, I am enough. So we attract someone who resembles that parent that we are wanting to love us because we didn't get love or acknowledgement from him or her. And it's unconscious. So we get into this relationship. We may not know it, but at some point, we begin to see the similarities with this parent that we want so much to love us and our partner. It happened to me. I attracted the man that resembled my father as a child to age 45. I had this wound of abandonment that my dad abandoned me. See, I brought that into my adult life. That my dad had abandoned me. It wasn't until later that I put the pieces together. Oh, my love language is quality time. So this person has to be available to give me quality time. My dad wasn't there. He wasn't there, and he didn't abandon me. He went to Vietnam, and when he came back, he was diagnosed with 100% mental disability. Back in his time, it was called shell shock. We now call it PTSD, but he was also diagnosed as bipolar paranoid schizophrenia. So of course he wasn't there. But as a child, I didn't know that. I didn't understand. And then as an adult, all I had of him was this wound. This interpretation of what was happening, repeating over and over in my head, my dad abandoned me. And I would see him occasionally. I'd go visit him in a mental hospital. But still, even though I was an adult, I was still hanging on to that wound that my dad had abandoned me. Think about it. Many of you are still hanging on to these childhood wounds, hurts. Right? And we take those into our relationship, and our partner is our mirror, showing us every day where we are undeveloped, showing us every day our wounds, all those parts and aspects of ourselves that are unhealed. The relationship is an opportunity to move us towards wholeness. And the relationship that we have with this person who resembles that parent we so much want to love us, to hold us, to see us, is an opportunity to heal that wound with that particular parent. At some point, unconsciously, I attracted this man who resembled my dad. And as I stated at first, I didn't know. But at some point I did, and I said, this is my dad. Tyffany, you have married your dad. And it's so interesting because on our second date, he told me, he said, you remind me of my mother. She broke my heart. I have a feeling you're going to break my heart too. His mother's sun sign is Sagittarius. My sun sign is Sagittarius. My dad's sun sign was Virgo. And the man I dated and married, his sun sign is Virgo. Matter of fact, he and my dad are only 6 days, in terms of birthdays, 6 days apart. He was so much like my dad. Brilliant, fun, a Virgo, typical Virgo trait of wanting things a certain way. I remember when he showed me, this is how I like my shirts folded. Man. Hilarious. But more importantly, the wound I was seeking to heal had to do with my issue of believing I was abandoned by my dad. So my dad wasn't available. And my husband wasn't available. You see, I'm wanting to heal this wound. I'm a quality time person, right? My love language is quality time. And I'm wanting to heal this wound of abandonment. And I attract a man who resembles my dad in so many ways. But most of all, in the way that I'm in the way that I felt wounded. My ex-husband is a lawyer, and when we first started dating and married, he told me, he said, 3 things are important to me: the law, he's a lawyer, my fur baby, Cowboy, his German Shepherd, and he said, you are number 3. He's already telling me, I'm not important. He's not going to be available. He never liked to be at home. He was a traveling attorney. He would take cases, different parts of Texas, so he couldn't be at home. He was never available. You see what's being mirrored for me? I have this man who, in a sense, abandons me, who's not available. And he didn't want to be available. He didn't want to be there. So much so that he told me, I'm not going to be around, so I'm going to buy you a puppy. And he went, and we went together, and he bought me a puppy and told me, this is your companion. So I never got to heal that wound with that partner. But I knew at some point I drew him in. He likely drew me in. I resembled his mother. We drew each other in to heal these wounds with that particular parent. It wasn't until after we were divorced and he told me, he apologized, said he was sorry for not being around. He was sorry that I wasn't a priority for him. So I got some closure. But most of all, it was so interesting that my next partner, or partner after that, she called me on it and helped me to heal that abandonment issue with my dad, that wound that I had bonding me with my dad. See, we hold on to the wounds, one, because we don't heal the wounds. We take them into adulthood. But we also, one of the reasons why we hang on to them, other than, it's hard, you have to recognize the wound, you have to acknowledge it, you have to do the work to heal it, all those things. But most people that hang on to these wounds hang on to them because that's the only thing that they have bonding them to that particular parent. The parent may not be around. The parent may be completely out of their lives, transition, whatever. So that's all they have left of their parent, that wound. And some people want to hang on to that wound. But it will prevent you from healing, from moving towards wholeness, from having healthy relationships with others. Luckily, well, there was no luck involved. Unconsciously, I called in someone who had the awareness and consciousness to help me to see and understand that I could heal that wound myself if I could recognize and acknowledge that my dad didn't abandon me, that he was mentally ill, and that I was a child and I didn't have the understanding, but at 45, I could understand. And I'm grateful to her. I'm grateful to the man who agreed as part of his soul contract to assist me with healing this wound. Your partners are agreeing. It's part of their soul contract to assist you with healing those wounds. Some of them will resemble one of your parents, where that wound is so deep, and some may not. But I challenge you to look at some of your partners, past or present, and see whether or not you're dating or married to someone who resembles one of your parents. I'll tell you something else that's interesting. One of my sisters saw this, and one day she came to me and she's like, "Girl, do you know you married your daddy?" And I said, I know. I married my daddy. Yeah, I did. Not in a sick way, people. It had nothing to do with that. It had to do with healing a childhood wound with my dad. So, there's a reason why you might be dating or married to someone who resembles one of your parents. Thank you for your time, Love Posse. Namaste.